This is the Blairing Out with Eric Blair show, and today I'm pleased to have lead singer of the Cardigans, a camp, and now solo artist, Elisabet Persson. What was your youth like growing up in Jönköping, Sweden, and how did it shape you as a person?
I grew up in a, middle-class academic family, kind of. I had a very I had, that kind of upbringing. I lived in a villa with a garden. I had two younger brothers and, super safe.
Were your parents supportive of your wanting to be a musician?
I didn't want to be a musician, so they were not worried. No, they were always incredibly supportive of. When I was younger, I was more into art. I went to art school, and I was convinced I was going to work with visual arts somehow. And they've always been very supportive of that. And when I started to enjoy music, they were incredibly supportive of that too. But I never really strived to become a musician. I was just sort of recruited as a singer to this band. And I was I was bored out of my mind in this small, safe place. So I was like, awesome, I get to hang with the fun guys. And then things just started to happen and take off with the Cardigans. So I never made that decision. And after about a year or something, when we had been a band, my parents were like, all right, okay, but you got to go back to school and these kinds of things. So there was a couple of years in the beginning when they were like, is this something you can really do? I sort of had to show them a paycheck to be like, it is my job now, whatever. So, but it's also that generation for them, education and all that is their, ticket to a happier life, and it's the safety, that whole thing. Now they're great. I almost had to have like a bit of a blow up with them when I was like, listen, you can't keep sounding disappointed because I've been doing this for 10 years now, and I'm gonna feel like you don't approve.
They don't get
they kept feeling like it wasn't. I had a feeling that my mom thought it was something kind of superficial and not real and not important, and that made me feel super bad for a while. But then when I said this is not really cool, then she got it, and then she actually she understood what I was saying, that it actually is pretty rewarding to me.
How often had she seen you perform on stage before she got it?
Oh, she's seen me. They would always come to shows when they could, yeah. But I remember once when we had made this record called Gran Turismo, when I started to sort of have a bit of a, tougher look or whatever. I remember she came we did a huge show at like an arena in Stockholm, and she came to the dressing room afterwards, and she didn't say that she liked the show. She just said like, "You look like Marilyn Manson," and it was after that I was like, okay, I need to talk to her because I was feeling horrible. That was not cool. And after that, it just got better actually. Now she's great and comes to everything and thinks that I'm awesome. And
you know what the thing with some moms and some parents is that they envy their children.
Maybe I think there might be something to it, and also it's amazing how they can't even pretend. If they don't genuinely feel that they're psyched about what you're doing, how parents just can't pretend to be,
Well, they think that being a parent gives them the right to be brutally honest all the time.
Yeah, and I'm trying to keep that in mind with my kid, to not do that to him.
Why was it time for you to become a solo artist?
It was because I have, during all my years up till now doing music, I've been like, I don't think I would never be a solo artist. I would never do that because I've been loving being in my different bands for all reasons. But now, as I said, I have a kid. He's 4 now. And when it was time for me when I started to get excited to work again, I was like, but how's this going to happen? Because when you have other people depending on you, when you're band members, if I say I can't do it on Wednesday, there's going to be 4 other people being like, bummed out kind of, and I couldn't really deal with that. I felt like, so it was a good time to be moving on my own kind of. It just made me much more flexible. I didn't have to disappoint people, or also and the other way around. I wasn't depending on other people, coming running when I called. So then it felt like, why not? I can do it now, and I really liked it. It's been good.
What was your original vision for your solo album, Animal Heart?
Well, I'm really happy with it, but it's not. I think I had automatically thought that if I would do something solo, it would be more sort of folky, rootsy, because I've been sort of touching that kind of music a lot before, and I thought that, well, that's what you do when you're a female singer, I guess, sort of. But then when I started to write with the people I wrote with, it was just like, this is kind of boring. So we just decided to keep it to be like, pretty traditional format songs. It's verse and chorus, that kind of thing. But to just try to produce it in a bit more sort of exciting way, more modern. And I was also excited to not be in a band where there has to be a guitar player that needs to be featured. So I was like, I'm just going to have no fucking guitars this time. And more just dive into... My husband has a great collection of vintage keyboards and analog synthesizers and stuff. So we just decided to do... just make it a little bit more electronic. It's still not like a dancey thing at all. But since I grew up in the 80s listening to what was on the radio then, I really have a soft spot for lots of those great sounds.
There's something very haunting about your album.
It sounds great. I like to hear that. I don't know. I think I couldn't tell because I'm too
close to it.
Too close to it, but I love to hear you say that.
So what did frequent collaborator and husband Nathan Larson from Shudder to Think and A Camp and Eric D. Johnson, known for his work with the Shins and the Fruit Bats, bring to the table musically?
Well, my husband Nathan, I've worked with him a lot before, so he has kind of, since we've been together, he's always sort of been... I've always worked with him since, even when I've been writing for the Cardigans. He is my constant sort of... I check everything with him because it's just amazing to, have some, and I trust his opinion very much. So I knew sort of course, what I was going to get from him. But Eric was more of a new input kind of, who made a difference. And he's just very, anyone who's listened to Fruit Bats especially, that's when he writes the songs. He has a solo career going now too, which is great. He has an amazing sense for melody. And he's also a singer, which was really fun. I haven't really been writing with singers before. It's a guy singer, of course, but he does a great falsetto, so that worked. So that was fun. He has that sensibility for melodies. Also, when I pick collaborators, it usually starts because I just like the person a lot. He was working with my husband on a soundtrack at our house when I was home with our tiny baby, and we just bonded really well. So decided to let's make a record at some point.
How do you see your music touching lives on the road?
I have become much more open to that. I think it used to freak me out a little bit when people would tell me that it touched their lives. Mm-hmm. I would be a little bit like, I couldn't handle it somehow. But lately I've just gotten much more like really, really, really happy about it and excited to hear these things, and because that gives this job a real meaning. It's a cliche, but it's true. I'm not a nurse, I'm not saving lives, but I think it really, people have told me they gave birth to my records and it was their wedding dance, and and they had a hard time and it helped somehow. So it's really people, it happens to people and they tell me, and it's amazing. I don't know why I couldn't really take it in before. Well,
I think when you're young and the whole fame thing is happening to you, it's a little overwhelming, and then you have to mature and grow up. And I think when you grow up, your view of life and the way you accept things is different than you were when you were younger.
Yeah, and also I think there might be something also that's a responsibility that I didn't want. I was like, no, don't take it that seriously, whatever. But now I'm just happy that people take it seriously.
Now, are you getting any reactions on the road to your solo album, Animal Heart?
Everybody who comes to the shows are really excited about it. People always ask me when the Cardigans are going to make another record, but I think that's the way it is. That's what you get when you have been in a band like that. But the response has been great. It's, of course, commercially, it's a much smaller scale than the Cardigans, for example, and. But the people who do show up are very devoted and nice.
Off Animal Heart, what inspired the lyrics for the songs? I'll start off with Clip Your Wings.
For that song, and often for me, it's words that just organically come up when we start to play a tune. It's sort of, and then it sticks so well with the music. That's when words sound the best, when they come up in the moment you come up with a melody. So What I first had was this: "You can go if you want to go, but I don't think that'd be wise." So that song was simply just inspired by me thinking like, that's kind of a fun theme, that I'm talking about. Like, I would never clip you wings, but then on the other hand, you're saying, yeah, but you better not go too far away, because it's sort of like, sometimes I think it's fun to put myself in a position as the narrator or the persona, whatever, who's kind of slightly unsympathetic person. It's fun to play a really kind of, greedy, small-minded person sometimes. And when it comes to, relationships and sexuality and everything, it can do that to the best of people, and I think that's really interesting.
Catch Me Crying.
When we wrote that song, I was so excited because I thought it sounded very Pretenders-like, and I love the Pretenders. So I think I was trying to think. I was trying to pretend like I was Chrissy Hine writing some kind of a story.
So the songs are not based on personal experiences. They're just more pulled out of the ether.
Well, I think that they all are. It all is, because I don't write poetry. I don't write. I don't keep a journal or anything. It's like when a writer writes a novel, it all comes from you, but it's also fiction. But it's all filtered through me, so they're all about me, kind of, But I do play little characters, kind of, and it's never really the story of my life completely. Although Catch Me Crying is really something where it's like, oh, I know what that's about, So, but it's always to a different degree. You know how a writer writes a book, it's not necessarily autobiographical, usually not, but of course it's completely filtered through the experience and the mind of that person.
Well, they always say, write what you know.
Yeah, exactly. And I know these things, I talk about it, but I could never say that, I wrote songs in the Cardigans that's about like domestic violence, and I have not, people are like, oh my God, how are you doing? And I'm like, don't worry, it hasn't happened to me, but I think a lot about it. And it moves me, and I think it's important, and I want to talk about it, kind of thing.
So you would say there is somewhat of a message in your songs?
It's something that I think is important enough to put on my record, because I have to sing it hundreds of times when I make a record. So yes, it is. There's always, everything is I never feel like any song is just like, oh, I don't even know, it's just words, because it's, but even pretty words can have a function in a way, because beauty does have a function sometimes.
Also, like you said, it's filtered through you, so there's all sorts of things that are in there that might come to you later.
Yeah, exactly. And with the Cardigans, we did 2 years ago, we did one of these tours where you play a record song by song. So we did a tour like that with Gran Turismo, and that was 10 or 15 years later than that record, I guess. And I was like, this is amazing. And I was, I was thinking, like, what's that going to be like playing these old songs? But they were almost more current. And I was like, how could I even think these things when I was, single and 20, whatever.
My favorite game. Okay, so I watched that video, and I know Jonas Ackerlund directed that video. That video has not aged. That could still be a current video. Your makeup and your hair all look very of the time now.
Yeah, you're right. But we also didn't go super fashion then. I looked cool then, and it still looks cool, but it wasn't like fashion of the flavor of the month kind of thing.
Classic looks that never go out of style.
No, leather pants and a tank top is always going to be rad.
And a nice smoky eye.
Yeah.
Animal Heart. What inspired that?
I think that was the same thing we were playing around. I thought that song Animal Heart was going to be a total old school disco song. I'm a huge Donna Summer fan, so I was seeing my moment to do that. We didn't go that far exactly, but I also, the first lines I came up with when we were writing it was, my animal heart is telling me to flee, and I just sang that over and over again. And when I was going to sit down and actually draft out the whole song, I was like, I cannot abandon that. And it was also just very, lots of images came to, and that is really part of a theme that I've been writing about a lot, which is sort of, again, it's the old love fool theme. It's about how you sort of you can be a very sophisticated person, but when it comes to sexuality, you just lose your chops completely. animal heart
Yeah.
and the primitive to instinct and how primitive you get, how primal it is.
The Grand Destruction Game.
That song has something in it that reminds me of like Glenn Campbell. By the time I get to Phoenix, there's few songs about ladies being the dog. I thought it was fun to write a song where I'm the person who's a raping and a pillaging a little bit.
How did going through surgery for cervical cancer 5 years ago change you as a person?
I really think it did more than I at all could know at the time. But I think for me, just getting that first sort of tap on my shoulders that, shit can happen to you too was really overwhelming. And it still is, because, if that kind of shit happens to you once, then it's like, what else can happen, kind of. And that's quite interesting just to have that, to get that real tap, because it's hard to imagine. You just don't think... you can be scared of cancer, you can be scared of all kinds of things, but you just never really understand that it can happen to you. So, that was kind of crazy. And it's also weird, when it's that kind of cancer, it also, like, at the time, the worst aspect of it to me was that, because I found out right when I had decided that it's time for me to think about babies, if there's ever going to be any in this life. And the fact that there was also the risk of not being able to do that was really freaky. So yeah, it does a lot, but and I'm kind of this weird thing that really doesn't make sense, and it's a horrible thing to say because I wish it hadn't happened, and I don't wish it for anything, but it's kind of like now it's good that it happened because I needed it a little bit, or something. It's done something good with me, I feel like. That wouldn't have happened otherwise.
Where do you find your safety zone in your mentally and emotionally now after something like that's happened to you?
Well, first of all, just that it happened to me and that it didn't kill me. I mean, you can't really control the cancer, but it also didn't kill me. Like I'm not. It hasn't lessened anything in my life. Quite the contrary. That's a safety, Also knowing that it can happen, but it can still work,
That's
and just knowing that I could handle it, because you think it's just going to end, it's like the worst thing you can think about, but I handled it, and it's okay.
So essentially, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
I think that's true, and I sometimes, I love the cliches because they're cliches for a reason, because there's something in it. Yeah.
What do you miss most about your son Nils while on the road?
Oh, I miss him a lot right now. It's been a little sad because I've already had a couple of days when I played shows back in New York, and he, I didn't see him after school, and I would be home late and had to sleep in, and that, And this morning when I was going to take him to school before I went to the airport, I realized that I had left my keyboard in a yellow cab the night before, so I had to be on the phone with 311. It was so sad. So I miss him a lot right now. He's funny though, because I was like, I'm gonna miss you. I'm gonna be sad when I go to LA, and he's like, no, you should be glad. He said. I was like, why do you have to like pick me up right now? It's great, but he did. So that's.
Oh my gosh, he sounds like he's gonna become very strong-willed.
I know. He just wants everybody to feel good all the time, which is yeah.
That's fantastic.
So I just missed him. It's also, of course, it's really nice aspects of it, to be in a hotel room and get to sleep in and all that is great.
How do you stay humble in the face of all the applause and adulation?
I don't think that's really hard, because you get that, and you also I get critiqued. I feel like I don't get the applause all the time. I get it when I get on stage, because some of the people are also just being polite. I don't care, and it doesn't matter because it makes me happy anyway. But I don't know. I think it's just it's nice to be appreciated in one context.
Well, do you think that the way that fame approached you was different during your heyday with the Cardigans than it is now?
Yeah, it's also much less now. I mean, for a while it was a little crazy with the Cardigans, and it also happened really quickly, actually. That step from being a, well, you know, hardworking touring band to being like the people who did Love Fool. That was very, very, that something really happened then. I can especially see in retrospect. But I think that, and we have talked about this some in the Cardigans, we're all raised by, you know, not religiously, but Lutherans or people who are like, that does not make you any worth anything more than anybody else, you know. And maybe that's what's showing kind of a little bit, that there's a lot of, you know, negative aspects of that too. It's a very Swedish thing. Good luck, but don't ever think that makes you any different from us, you know.
Are you including any Cardigans songs or A Camp songs on this tour?
Yeah, I'm including a camp songs. For some reason, it's felt to me that the Cardigans songs are not mine to perform without the Cardigans, kind of. I don't know why. And the camp sort of was my initiative and my project. And I recently did a couple of concerts together with a symphonic orchestra, and then I did Cardigan songs, but I really felt the need to ask them if it was okay. Of course they said yes, but it still feels like they're not mine to just mess with, you know. And we still play together, the Cardigans. I think that if we had really called it quits and really, it was really behind, if we weren't a collective anymore, it would be different.
What were the pros and cons to being a pop star in the late 90s?
The pros were that it was really awesome because there was so much fucking money everywhere. Cool. We got to be on tour buses all the time. People were throwing money and clothes at us, cars. It was comfortable. Uh-huh. And that's what is the con too, I think, because it was blown up and it was overvalued, a lot of things. Mm-hmm. A lot of things were overvalued while too much was also undervalued. It was weird. It was just too much business, too much money floating around for it to sort of really, I mean, of course it had to end, sort of. And it was also, we were quite removed from where things were going on, I realize now too. Like we had no idea what was happening to our money, and we had no idea what the record companies were doing. We were on major labels everywhere. You know, we were kind of, we were protected from that sort of, which I think is really bad too. Now I'm not, these days, I think overall people need to dive into it more. And I've done it by necessity and choice. And it's just better to know. I mean, we weren't that blue-eyed, but I hear about bands who didn't realize that the money they were spending on their entourage were their own, you know, for example. But I just think it's healthier now. It's hard now. It's a struggle to make money. But on the other hand, it's a little more like you know what you get, kind of. But I'm really, and this is sort of, I'm glad I'm still close with my bandmates that I went through the 90s with, because it's our favorite thing to be like, oh, the 90s, because we really love to talk about how opulent it was and how awesome to actually have gotten to do that once.
Who is your beauty icon?
I love this show, American Horror Story, because I can't stop, I can't get enough of staring at Jessica Lange still. And I don't care if she's been enhanced or anything. She's so gorgeous. I'm actually, she's a friend of mine too, so I don't feel weird when I say it, but I can't stop staring at her either. She's in the Citizens Band along with me, the Karen Elson. I usually don't think models are the most attractive women.
That's Jack White's ex-wife. And she, what, they have 3 kids together?
Two kids, yeah. She really is.
No, she's beautiful.
When I hang out with her, and every single picture I see of her, I was like, that must be the most beautiful woman. Second to Jessica Lange.
Jack White, of course, he's going to get a woman like that. He's got power. Well, I know, but he acted like he wanted to lose her. Because they had that divorce party, the celebrating of the divorce.
Yeah. Is that the conscious uncoupling thing, do you think?
That whole conscious uncoupling thing is a big joke.
No, I get a little uncomfortable when I don't think it,
Describe your fashion style.
I just had my 40th birthday party, and my mom's whole speech to me was all about when I lost collars, because I stopped wearing collars when I was about 18. It's totally monochromatic. I don't own anything colored. So it's very black and gray. And I like that. For me, I love colors around me, but not on me. And I think I'm not super trendy, I think. I love clothes. I'm really into it. But I'm also not super sort of street smart looking kind of. In that way, I think maybe I'm just more classic. I don't know either. I wouldn't wear loafers, but I'm a little more timeless than that sort of. I like pretty sort of stark and striking lines, and look at you, black man there. Yeah, and it was really funny at my party also. I couldn't believe it, and nobody had told people to, but I looked out over the party and I wanted to cry because everybody was gray or black. It was totally monochromatic. I was like, I love you guys. It's and it's almost like they did. I mean, and they, I pick my friends after the colors they wear or non-colors they wear.
Fashion designers?
Yeah, I've just lately not been. I mean, it's harder for me to name drop designers these days because I've just not been going for designers because I haven't had that kind of money lately. But what I like to look at, I really like Saint Laurent, what it's doing. It's been good. It's really good, I think. I keep liking what they do, but I can't buy it. I didn't want to admit this for the longest time, but I really like European design a lot. I feel more sort of at home when I'm looking in stores, and Swedish designers are really good. I like Acne, if you're familiar with that brand.
Are you a spiritual person, or do you believe in a higher power? And if so, how would you define it?
I am not a spiritual person, but I am also absolutely not an atheist. I'm more of a agnostic, you would say, and that goes for spirituality and everything, religion. I just feel like I don't know. So of course there can be stuff. I just feel like I'm such a very practical kind of. I believe what I see, sort of. But then I feel like you see a lot. I think I'm spiritual in the sense that I get very, very moved by things that are real. By people and nature and art and music and kids and do you see what I mean? I think there's incredible magic and craziness in just what is made of science, whatever.
Do you consider your son's conception? Do you consider that a miracle?
Well, he was such a complete sort of laboratory, so no.
Okay.
I can't. Well, I think that I'm insanely lucky that I could be pregnant at all, because that's what but I don't think that's not a miracle. There was a good surgeon, and that's how I see it. But it is of course, nobody can have a kid or see a kid and not think that that's fucking amazing, Yeah. But I don't think that I think it's our amazing bodies and our amazing capacity that makes the kids so fantastic.
What brings you the most peace in your life right now?
It was actually really nice to just get out of the car and be in Los Angeles. It was so nice that it was so quiet, and it was just so peaceful. It's been a little crazy last few days. It's just so that's peaceful. But I run a lot and I walk a lot, very, very much, and that's getting more and more of a religion to me somehow. It's really I tried for a while to start meditating, but I cannot get that together really. But to walk and run, swim, anything monotonous, I think is awesome. That makes me feel really calm and happy.
How would you define the word love?
It can be so many things. I was going to say when love is sort of like the goodest thing there can be, but it's not true really, because it can be very damaging too, of course, and destructive. But at its best, it's the goodest thing there is. The best thing there is would be the wrong way. I think I need to be Swedish and say the goodest.
How has your makeup style changed over the years?
For a while, long time ago when we started, I wanted to be 60s, so I overplucked my eyebrows and wore a lot of false eyelashes and way too much foundation. And then I wanted to look more rock, so I did my super black. I did my Marilyn Manson period with lots of black. I like that still, and I still sort of rock a very black eye when I'm performing. So yeah, for performing right now, I was just too comfortable to put on a lot of makeup. I like my black eye, but lately I realized that's one thing about turning 40, that a lot of foundation looks less and less good on me, kind of. So I think I'm gonna just deal with whatever my own skin does and go more bare.
What moisturizer are you using right now?
Aven from French pharmacy.
Foundation.
When I'm performing, I use the Armani.
That's
one
the
of them.
best.
Yeah, not the Maestro. I went serious. I went to like Barney's and sat down and had them try everything, because I feel like I've failed so much. It's really hard to find a good one, but I'm glad I took it seriously and I got a good one.
Do you powder that?
No. When I perform, I do.
Your skin looks very dewy and healthy.
Yeah, so I look super shiny. Now I'm not wearing anything. I put on a little Benefit concealer just around my nose, that's all.
What do you use to fill in your eyebrows?
Makeup Forever. Have a little thing in a tube. That's really good. It's like a gel.
Mascara?
Blink. Do you know it?
Yeah. Yeah, the tubes.
Yeah. This is the Blink eyeliner too that I just got. It's great because my eyes get really irritated by a lot of eye makeup remover. So you don't have to work so hard on taking it off, which is good.
What have been the career highlights of Emmerdale?
Well, that was our first record, and the first thing first thing I recorded and the first thing we wrote and everything. So that was very magical, of course, because it was just the virginity of everything, kind of. It's beautiful, and when I listen to it now, it's really so innocent, sort of, and very sweet.
1995, Life.
Then we started to get a little more sassy and retro and a little more quirky and more, just little more mileage, kind of. And that's the most sort of conceptual record we ever did, I feel like. And we really had, I think that's why it aged not as well. Or why it's harder to play it these days, because it was so conceptual. It was fun though, and really good for what it was, but it was a time capsule.
First band on the moon.
Every record we have made with the Cardigans has been like a counter reaction to the previous one. And by then we were really tired of everybody calling us cute, after having done sort of cute and sort of ethereal and sort of a little bit, we felt like we weren't easy listening, we weren't taken serious. So we wanted to be taken seriously, we wanted to be a little more sort of gritty and rocking. But then we made Love Fool on that record, so we just sort of like totally dug our grave completely.
You guys, over your career, covered 2 Black Sabbath songs. You covered Iron Man and Sabbath Bloody Sabbath.
Yeah, and we also did Boys Are Back in Town, Thin Lizzy.
But I just thought it was mind-blowing to hear you do Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, because that song is such a angry song.
I love metal, a lot of it. Because there's really good songs in a lot of metal, so we wanted to emphasize that, like it's what's hiding behind this, take it for what it is, but it's actually really good songs. So we wanted to sort of change the costume of it and show that.
1998, Gran Turismo.
Then we wanted to even more sort of take a step away from cuteness and be sort of like. We've always had singles from each record that hasn't really been representative for the whole record. So we wanted to just we wanted to be more. Pro Tools had just arrived, and we were into like Depeche Mode, and we wanted to just make something that was shinier and less. Just harder, kind of. It was funny, a funny period also. I think that's an amazing record. But every time, and I'm so glad that we've toured with it again, because we got to sort of fill those songs with a little light, actually, because we were really worked out and really dark at the time. It really came from, we were exhausted and really bitter and not liking anything, not liking each other or life or,
2003, Long Gone Before Daylight. Now, a lot of people say that album is very country influenced.
It's very Americana influenced, for sure. We all looked the same, and we all had very long hair and very long beard, and that's the record we did. So after Gran Turismo, we didn't have a good relationship, and Long Gone Before Daylight is what came out of it when we that was conscious coupling, because we needed to. We rented a house in Santa Monica actually for 2 weeks on the beach. And we were not even first. We weren't allowed to bring instruments because we were only gonna talk, and eat and drink and become friends again, kind of. And we did. But after like 3 days, Peter was like, "I'm just gonna go get an acoustic." So he did, and then we wrote the first song on that record called "Communication." So that was It's really beautiful. It's like one of these. It's like the opposite of a breakup record.
And then 2005, Super Extra Gravity.
We've never done a follow-up record as quickly ever. So that one came it was done quickly after Long Gone Before Daylight. It was also made, we spent 9 months making Long Gone Before Daylight. So Super Extra Gravity we did in 2 months or something. We were just tired of it being so draining, and serious and heartfelt. So we just wanted to move up a little bit more. It's a more restless record. I love that record. It's also the latest one we've done. So that's what I'm mostly attached to. I love it. It's really, for me, it's the record where I really wallowed in this fun thing of pretending to be somebody quite unlikable. I played different kind of pretty not awesome characters in that, and it was really fun.
Would you like to record a new Cardigans record?
Yes, I would. And we talk about that sometimes, but it's really hard to figure out how the hell we would do that, because we're spread out over the world and people have day jobs and night jobs and tons of kids and all that. It's much harder now because a couple of us would have to leave, we would have to go away, and all these things are just bigger projects these days. So I don't know that it's going to be possible, but we keep sort of revisiting it. I think the will is there, so we just need to sort of. It's not going to happen anytime soon, but we are and especially we need to enthuse our songwriter to be as enthusiastic as the rest of us.
If you could fix any one injustice in the world, what would it be?
Misogyny.
How do you see that playing out in the world today?
All over the place, constantly, everywhere. I think that's a really important. If you talk about solidarity and equal rights for equal people, and there's still such a weird how men and women are treated so differently and by society, and how society is treating motherhood and all these things. I think it's terrible.
Do you encounter discrimination?
Yes.
As a woman?
Yes, I do.
How
for
do you?
Sure.
How
It
does?
was just a year ago when we were shopping for a label for my record, that one label said, "No, we can't have her because we already have 2 female artists," or something like that, for example. Interesting. I'm lucky in the way that I'm privileged and I'm surrounded by really good men, I feel like, All my friends, all my male friends, I think they're amazing examples, I'm in a culture where, there's not a whole lot of that still, but I think it's, I get it, and I especially see it around me a lot.
Tom Jones, 1999, you guys duetted on Burning Down the House, a cover of a Talking Heads song. What was it like working with Tom Jones?
It was really cool. We were so lame then, because we were like, well, I don't really like Tom Jones' music that much, but I guess it's cool, we'll do it. But then he came, and it was such a big deal, because we always lived in Malmö in Sweden, which is a smaller town. It's the 3rd biggest town, but it's a small town. And he came in with a helicopter. It was such a big deal. The Malmö ladies were like, what? And he came, and we met him at this restaurant, and he's the nicest man. And he loves to talk. It was also really sweet because he loved to talk to us, because we were, young, and his manager, I don't know if he still is, but his manager was also his like best and oldest friend. And the two of them would have like cognac and cigars and just really get going with stories. And for me, it was amazing too. I didn't really know how to relate to it, but he would like, this gentlemanly little hand on the lower back, and hold open doors, and that sort of old school kind of protecting the women, whatever. It was really awesome. It was really fun too, because we recorded our vocals not in the same room at the same time. But we did something. I think we just did it because they wanted to take some pictures of us, and it was really hilarious because you would see like the needles on the meters on the mixing board. We'd be like, I'm singing and it goes like this, and he just goes like bam, like that, right? Because we're such different singers. But it was fun, and we also did a couple of like TV performances together and did some traveling, and he's a genuinely very nice man. It was fun, and so afterwards we didn't say anything more about his music. We were like, I love you. And when we many years later played Vegas, he had a show there, and he had said back then, he was like, if you ever come to Vegas, just give me a call. You got to come see me. And we were like, let's try it. Let's see. And he was like, oh, hi, Magnus. Yeah, sure. Put us up on the guest list. And so he's a very sort of like, loyal and faithful kind of guy.
What's next for you?
Next is I'm here to play a couple of shows, which I'm really happy about, to finally make it to the West Coast with this record. And then I'm going to have a little bit of a quieter time. It's sort of, I've been traveling a lot this year. I'm excited actually to just be a better mom, just to pick up from school a little more, and sort of I have a couple of more little work things to do still this year. Then I'll see and start to think about what to do next, which I need a lot of time always to come up with.
Do you right now feel the hunger to do another solo album?
I don't know, and I never know that really until I feel like I've wrapped up the work with the current one, because I can't think about it even until there's an absence of something. It's funny. I have no idea.
I just think it'll be fun to see the evolution.
Yeah, I know. Or I'll just come up with a fourth format or whatever. But it's been really fun. So I think I just have to see what It's very likely that I do that. I found a lot of new people that I really like working with, all the musicians I've played with and so forth. So it's likely because I've been enjoying it a lot.
Nina, thank you for being on the Blairing Out with Eric Blair show. You rock.
You rock.
Thank you.
Fun.
This is the Blairing Out with Eric Blair show with Nina Persson signing off.
The Blairing Out show.